writing a book needs commitment and needs time. It took me 3 years to bring this book to life, from 2020, and then it got published last year.
Yes.
And then you do need to take, I had to take a bit of a step back from my business. But when you think of it again from a business perspective, this is where the revenue comes from too, right? So there's a lot of, things that you have to kind of navigate from that perspective. Luckily, I do have a fantastic team that can take over. But still, it's like, okay, did I even recover? Even from a mental health perspective, it's a lot to take on. And I don't think I've actually taken time off or proper time off after book publication to process everything.
Hello, everyone. Here is Anna from Birdhaus Writing and Publishing. And today I'm so happy because we have here with us Sandra Mikhail, which is one of my Birdhaus writers, really starting from the very beginning of the Birdhaus writers adventure. And I'm so proud of her because, of course, I have her book here. So let me introduce you to Sandra a little bit. Of course, she's a friend of mine in the meanwhile, but she is also a fantastic dietitian. She also knows as the dietitian that speak poo salon chic, mostly because she's gut health specialist and she lives in Zurich, but she has a very international background. And what I like the most with Sandra is that she can really make things complicated easy. In her book, she also explained several problems with the gut health in a very nice and funny way, and for everyone that can understand. And this is why I am so happy to have you here, Sandra. So thank you for being here.
It's my absolute pleasure. You're very flattering. So I was like, and hey, it is a 1-year anniversary of the book. It's been a year. I
It's
know.
here. 1 year the publication. Oh my God, the times flies. And I was present, of course, at the book launch. It's a
Yeah.
moment of extreme pride for you, for your family, for myself, but also for the other writers that were cheering with you. So the book launch is always like the end of a big project, but the beginning of a new era as a writer.
Absolutely.
So I'm so happy and so proud for you. But let's start from the beginning. So what I would like to use this space to kind of share with other potential writers how was the journey, and then we go through very nice conversation, and let's see how this conversation goes. But let's start with the very very first point is about which moment you have decided that you wanted to write a book about your niche. Is a business book that is completely dedicated to your expertise. So which moment you have take this decision?
Look, I would say it wasn't just one moment. I mean, when you're at the book launch, I think at one part my dad was like, I've been wanting you to write a book for the last, 10 years, basically.
Yes, it's true.
And it's always been in the back of my mind. But I would say the moment came was at one of the events at Birdhaus that you organized for aspiring authors or writers. And for some reason, it was like the noise of writing a book became louder and louder. I mean, to be honest, I don't know if there's a right time to write a book. Obviously, I mean, if I had to tell you about the timing of everything, that probably was not the right timing to write a book. But I would say potentially that was the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm ready. I think I'd like to start exploring this journey of having enough content, because I mean, my whole business started as a blog, and Nutrition A to Z now is 14 years old. So I had quite a lot of content. And then I would say maybe the demand for excuse the French, no bullshit writing, especially to help people navigate the amount of misinformation that's out there, was becoming more and more. So for me, it was that moment where it was at the event. It was, I can't remember which author it was, but you organized it for authors. And then this is where you were actually telling us about the possibility of putting a writers group together. And I feel like that was around 2019. That was definitely
Yes.
before 2020, because I would say the writing really started at 2020 when we
Yeah.
all moved online.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I think when the space was open, we inspired many people to start writing. And I feel this is why I kept going with this project because the writing part of Birdhouse was always so interesting.
Yeah.
And what I also feel like many people have a book in themselves, so that people say, I have a book in me. And when you listen to other stories, is where you can see, that it's possible and we can do it. So I'm happy that one of the event that organized years ago actually triggered such a good
Yeah.
project. That's so good. So, and then once you started, so tell us a bit. So, what was actually the first maybe challenges and what really make you keep going and keep writing?
I mean, if we had to go back to the start, so the writing, I would say, started off in 2020 when we had the groups. And for me, one of the challenges was actually writing or dedicating the time to write. So the beauty about joining a writers group was the accountability. We had deadlines, we had accountability, and we were accountable not only to ourselves, but to others as well. So I feel like one of my main challenges in the beginning was actually first it was like, where do I start, right? And I think it's just putting the structure down. For me, I'm a very very structured person, but I would say, because maybe my writing was a little different, I already had a very basic vomit draft. Let's put it this way: 5 years ago, 5 years before joining the writers group in 2020. And it was 5 chapters, but very, very basic. And then I stopped because it wasn't the right time. And then I joined the group. And I knew in my gut that I wanted to approach publishers and not self-publish. And I know from the beginning that was also part of our discussions, is like, this is something that I really wanted to do because, look, again, anyone can write a book, but obviously when you have, or when you're picked up by a publisher, there is that sense of authority, and someone's actually willing to take the risk and invest in you to actually bring your book to a much, much broader audience. So for me, the writing was a little different because I've had this moment draft because I did want to approach publishers. So I would say the first 6 months of joining the group was purely working on the book proposal,
Yes.
and really, really perfecting that as much as I can. And then the challenges came, right? What do I do with this proposal, and how do I approach these big publishers? That was probably the biggest kick to my ego. Let's just put it this way. I don't think I've ever been rejected that much and that many times. So you really get acquainted with rejection. But again, having that group and having a bit of direction, or just when you feel like, what's the point, and having that really close network helped kind of push through and soldier on. So yeah, so basically, when you want to approach big publishing houses, you do need to go through an agent, because rarely do some of them want you to just, submit your manuscript like that. And again, I didn't have a full manuscript. I just had a proposal with the basic 5 chapters. So I still have the list here. I mean, it took me 6 months, I think, of, speaking to agents, having chats here and there. It was quite difficult because it is a very, in my field, it is a very saturated market to approach
Mhm.
someone. Like, how are you going to sell gut health when 20,000 other people are also doing the same thing? Anyway, so long story short, I just decided, look, you know what? I'm just going to approach some publishing houses, not just the bigger ones, but also the smaller boutique ones as well. And I did. And I think, again, rejection, or just not hearing from anyone. And then, yeah, one day in my, email inbox, a reply came back from one of the boutique publishing houses I approached, and they were very interested in my book proposal. And then we've organized chats afterwards. I remember having 2 meetings with them, and then the rest is history. We signed the contract, and then yeah, and then that made it real. I mean, it was always going to be part of the plan to bring the book out, but it hits differently when someone takes that risk, basically, to say, right, I want to be part of it, and I do want to bring your book out to the world.
Yes, yes, I do remember very well that time because it was spring and then we were meeting and you were in a stage and the other writers were in a slightly different stage. And I remember that you arrived twice super frustrated because you got only rejections. And then you had to explode because also there were emails that no one really replied. So you just
Yeah.
sent out and there were no response. And I remember that very shortly you wanted to go through the agency and the hybrid publishing.
Hybrid publishing, yeah.
And I was telling you, no, 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 you need to commit until the end of the
Continue and
year
commit, yeah.
and continue. And then, I mean, I was like cheering for you because we discussed about that at the beginning, and we all agree that you need to find a publisher and a publishing house that was key for you, for your niche and for your credibility. So this is why I think, yes, it was important to kind of keep you motivated on this. It was, and
Absolutely.
I'm so happy also because this is showcase, because people that work with me, I'm not like giving one solution. It's like every writer is different, every book, every niche is different. And now we have all those options, and it's important that you kind of know exactly what you want and then what is the best for you and for your kind of business and your niche, because also you work with physicians, with clinician and things. So the credibility is key for you. So this is why the publisher
Absolutely.
was important. So I'm very happy that at the end it worked out. But it's true, it was tough because you had a lot of rejection.
Well, exactly. I was like, I'm not being rejected so much. Like, what is going on? But again, it is good practice to actually to train your ego that it's just not, it's also because it is a big part of who you are as well. And it's not to take it personally either, because, this book is me. A big part of it is me. So, when someone rejects it, it's not that they're rejecting me as a person or a writer, it's just a circumstance.
It is. And I think you hit also a point. I mean, every book is part of you. And this is why people push so much of the personality and their life in any book. And then it becomes very quickly very personal. So it is important also to kind of set the good expectation, good timeline, so that you don't feel like it's you that is rejected and not actually is
Absolutely.
extension of you. So yes, I feel like your story with the publisher was a very good one, but it's not like a unique one. Many people need time to find an agent and a publisher. And I think patient is the essence. So taking the time, and then of course in parallel work on other stuff. So still progressing with the book.
Yeah,
Because of course for you, the thing is, because you already have an established business, you have a very established brand, the book will be part, so before it was published, will have been part of it. And now it's integrated part of your brand.
absolutely. Yeah.
So tell us a bit, what did you do, like to kind of prepare for the arrival of the book in terms of branding?
Look, I think, and maybe this is where the crossroads here, because this is, I think, where I'm at right now, is that, okay, initially the having a book is an extension of a business, right? It puts your name out there, there's an authority out there, but I always use it with a lot of my own clients, but people who buy the book and then are, let's say, very happy with the content and how it can help you, then approach us or approach the brand. Now, I would say in terms of branding, right? I think, and this is where I would say I'm at a crossroads right now. And I'm not going to say it's a challenge, but initially I thought, yes, the book is fantastic. It's a fantastic marketing tool. It's an extension of the brand. But now when you're an author and let's say you do have some kind of publicity or some kind of footing in that kind of direction, I think I'm at a crossroads where do I need to separate myself from Nutrition A to Z as the author of gut health books, let's say, plus
Mm-hmm.
a business owner. But obviously they're all interconnected at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
So I think I'm at that crossroads where do I actually want to always be associated with Nutrition A to Z? Absolutely, I am the founder of that brand. But now, maybe if there's a little spark to write another book, I was also invited to co-author another book. Do I need to separate the two, right? So I think I'm not even sure if I'm making sense, but this is also something that I'm personally evaluating or kind of going through right now is how the branding positioning, me
Yes.
myself as Sandra Mikhail versus Nutrition A to Z as a big business, plus all the branches that come out of it, books and resources included.
Yes, it is. It is an important point because many people that want to write nonfiction book on their business or maybe part of the business will actually arrive to this stage. So in a way, you can use the book as an additional marketing tool, as you
Exactly.
said. Like, okay, you are around and then you maybe speak and then you do, also networking and you have your book and then people will start reading how you can advise people and then become your clients. So kind of having this as a marketing tool, but also the other way. So like you already have your clients and your patient, and then they are using the book to kind of solidify what advisor
Yeah,
you already work with them. So it's definitely, but then there is this part about, okay, you have the first book is like the tattoos, then you want the second.
exactly.
And then it's like, okay, but then maybe I'm going a little bit away from the proper niche. So the branding becomes an important discussion. Of course, now it's part of the nutrition asset, but then later, who knows? I mean, it's definitely open, and it's something that I saw already with other two writers that at a certain point the book needs to have its own life separated from
Exactly.
business, and then basically they are becoming author on top of being the
A
professional.
business owner or exactly, or clinician.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's also a very good evolution because it also shows that, you are growing in terms of skills and in terms of recognition. And then publishing a book is always crystallizing this. So
Yeah.
it helps. It helps a lot. So, and then to share with the people that are going to listen to us is what were for you the three biggest challenge in all that. So considering as of today, where the book is here since a year, what in this journey were the main challenges?
I mean, the narrowing it down to three can be a little difficult, but if I have to look at the biggest challenges now is, I mean, and we've spoken about this too, is one is the publicity, the PR and marketing that comes. If you don't talk about your book, you don't sell. Now, obviously, you don't become a writer to make money. That's not, this is not one of that. You don't. Even if you're signed with a publishing house, unless you sell millions and millions and millions, maybe. But I think my biggest challenge right now is because I am wearing many hats. I do have a business to run. I've got clients to see. I've got projects, but I also have a book that I still want to kind of really push on the market. And I'm like, okay, is it too late now? That's it. The book's been out. It's been a year. Is it too late to really focus on or continue to work on the PR and marketing of the book to continue to reach potentially more people? I would say that is one challenge. So PR and marketing, but again, addressing that is I recently got my own publicist to help me, to help champion the book as well, but also myself as a speaker, myself as an author and an expert in this field. So positioning and branding, PR and marketing in that one bubble, you need help. You can't do it on your own.
Mhm.
And obviously, there's an investment that comes to it from a financial perspective.
Yes.
Now, the second challenge, I don't want to call it a challenge, but this is maybe just a reminder for everyone that's listening is that, especially for new authors, reviews matter. Now that I know the numbers of, how many books are out there, I know hundreds of people have the books, but I barely have any reviews. And for me, that was kind of one of the biggest maybe frustrations is like, why is it so difficult, or what are the roadblocks from getting these reviews?
Yes.
And we've spoken about that too as well, like sometimes even the platforms where people can submit the reviews don't make it easy, they make it quite difficult.
They make it difficult. Yes.
And then the third challenge, to be honest with you, again, I don't know if it's a challenge per se, but maybe this is just a personal battle, is what next? Like again, it's like, okay, so what comes after this? Yes, it's a great accomplishment, but do I stop here? Do I continue? Do I need to, what next? What comes after this? And again, I don't think it's a challenge per se, but it's just more of a, um, I don't know what vocabulary, like I've just went blank, but it's just one of these little nudges that I'm getting. It's like, or not irritating nudges, but something that's telling me, okay, where do I go with
Yes.
this? Do I
Yeah.
want to do more? But also, am I mentally ready to actually embark on another journey, because writing a book needs commitment and needs time. It took me 3 years to bring this book to life, from 2020, and then it got published last year.
Yes.
And then you do need to take, I had to take a bit of a step back from my business. But when you think of it again from a business perspective, this is where the revenue comes from too, right? So there's a lot of, things that you have to kind of navigate from that perspective. Luckily, I do have a fantastic team that can take over. But still, it's like, okay, did I even recover? Even from a mental health perspective, it's a lot to take on. And I don't think I've actually taken time off or proper time off after book publication to process everything. So
Yes.
I think that third challenge would be potentially navigating the after, right? Navigating after publication, a year after publication. What do you want to do? Did you take time off for yourself to let everything process?
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is where I'm at
Yes.
from a point of challenges.
Yeah, it's a very good reflection. Of course, now your challenges are more reflect on the after the publishing.
Yeah,
But yeah, because your writing is kind of far away, was 3 years ago, and then we discussed about also the challenge to find a publisher.
a publisher.
But it's true that maybe this is also one of my mantra. So people thinks that the hard part is writing, and I tell writing is the easiest and the funny part, and it's account for 30 to 40%. And
Absolutely. Yeah.
and then there are so much more than writing. And this is probably why, so for me, it's really about education. And those exchanges are very important for writers that have published, that actually can confirm really the writing is a piece relatively, so of course it's important, but relatively small. Because once you
Mm,
finish with your draft, then you have to work in team with the editor, with the publisher, with
exactly.
publicity and everything. And then every phase has its challenges. But of course, after the publication, you have this, finally, so this moment of pride. But then it's a second act that starts that requires really a lot of hustle. And it's
I
not,
completely agree. And I think, just like you said, I remember when we first talked about, writing a book, and how you always said, writing is the easy part. And I don't think the writing was not the problem. Also, when you're signed with a publisher, you have a clear deadline. We have structures, you have a timeline, submission timelines, etc. So that was not the challenges. And I wouldn't say, again, I think when you're writing nonfiction, I mean, you're looking at research, you're looking at data.
yeah,
Perhaps for me, and also I do have a specific kind of style, right? I mean, as you see in the book, one of my favorite reviews from a journalist is saying how she was surprised not to find me in her living room talking to her. And this is exactly what I wanted the book to be, as if you can hear me talking to you.
yes.
So these, I would say, as I said, my challenge, my personal challenges weren't with the writing. I would say, yes, it came to finding a publisher, a publishing house, and the proposals, polishing standing out in a saturated market. How do you do that?
Yes.
And also dealing with imposter syndrome, which I'm fairly certain everyone deals. Like, am I even good enough to be an author or a writer? Because it's very easy to compare yourself to best-selling authors in that
Mm.
field.
Yes, it is. It is. But everyone has his own path, and you need to follow this. But of course, also, for me, when I start working with writers, I always tell to them, look, you need to understand this is a long project, and it's a project with several phases, and do not underestimate the second part of the book project, which is really the marketing. Because once the book is there, then another thing. And it's good that you are sharing this also, because there is the pride is there, but then the frustration come in. So it's a completely different kind of frustration, because you have a product, you have a book, and you hope to sell it, you hope
Mhm.
that many people actually review it, and you see how challenging it is. So then you have a product that you need to market,
Yeah.
and you need to sell. And it's yes, it's a long process. And also, thank you for sharing the 3 years, which is absolutely correct, especially for books that are, published by publishing houses, because they have their own time.
Yeah,
own timelines. You need to fit on their schedule and on their calendars. It's not
yeah,
like you are, yeah, I want to publish in February. They are going to tell you, no, we are going to publish in June because this is where we have.
exactly. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Exactly. So this is like something that needs to be taken into consideration. And I think your example was very interesting and also very nice. So I wanted actually to just to conclude, but there were a couple of things with the publishing house that we wanted to say that I found this funny because one of the things, especially I have worked lately with two authors that were looking for a publishing house and they had a super clear idea about the cover. And I was kind of trying to tell them, look, if you are going on that route, you need to kind of delete every expectation in terms of book cover and everything because they are going to have their own thing. And the two of them, they actually entered this discussion with, this is the way that the book cover will look like. And one already decided to stop this and then go with an hybrid model because she has such a clear idea about her book cover that she's not ready to compromise. And maybe you can share this little anecdote with us.
So in terms of like working with a publisher, obviously has its pros and cons. One of the cons is how much control do you have? And how much say do you have? Luckily though, and this is when it should not discourage you, because I was able to somehow try to push at least, I mean, of course it wasn't the cover of the book that I wanted, um but at least I had the freedom of content. That's, for me, that was the most important thing. But also the illustration, I mean, for me, what was the most important thing is I wanted a specific illustration as the book cover, and we negotiated that and then we're happy with it. So it's a matter of negotiations and give and take. So it is just learning how to negotiate. I think this is a skill, especially when you want to work with a publisher,
Mhm.
when you get the contract. There are a lot of support groups out there, especially if you are joining big associations. And this actually was advised by the publishing house. It's like, why don't you join one of the associations in the UK for authors, because they can actually offer you legal help for free. So you pay the yearly fee, which is nothing, and then you actually get a legal counselor to look through your contract together, and you just discuss all the points openly. So they're kind of your advocate, because again, I don't know nothing about publishing contracts.
Yeah. Mhm.
So there is always room for negotiation, but obviously when it came to the font and this, I had no say. I would love to. I mean, it's not, I wanted more color in the book. I wanted, again, I am a first time author. So obviously how much money they're willing to spend on you is also a big question mark there, right? So again, that book cover shouldn't really put you off. It is negotiable to a certain level. That would be my advice there.
It is. I mean, the book cover is part of a very long journey for the first time authors. What I feel like there are fixations on people that have never been through a journey of a book. There are fixations that, of course, for me, that I have now so much experience, I need to laugh, but I also need to kind of reassess their expectations. Like, yes, I mean, if you really have this clear idea about that and you don't want to compromise, just stop with the publishing house. But for me, it's not more about that. It's more like making people understand that you need to enter the discussion with a publisher with an open mind because they are the expert. They know how to put the book in the context, what it's part of, or the collection, a portfolio of books.
Yeah,
So this is there is several elements. So this is why you need to enter those discussions with an open mind and then trust the process sometimes because I mean they are at the end the one who decides.
exactly.
There is things, but I need to say that when I saw for the first time the book cover, I was kind of, this is so not the kind of book cover that I would have imagined you with because
Yeah,
it's not really so close to your business brand, but it's actually it's a perfect book cover. I mean, there is a gut, there is things. It's like for what it needs to be, it's the perfect book cover. So I found this also very interesting because it's like, okay, look, at the end, you have a fantastic book published, the cover is there, the publishing house is helping you, so everything is fine.
Absolutely. And look, I think things like that should not be deal breakers. If you've got an opportunity to have a discussion with a publishing house, the book cover should not be a deal breaker. I
Yeah.
mean, just like you said, they are the experts as well. So for me, what was also interesting is the color. Like there is no gut health book that is black.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them are super white and clean, or you have the typical tummy image on it, which I did not want. Absolutely not. So I think in a way it's like, right, potentially they can help you stand out in a very saturated market to sell more.
It is, it is. Look, this conversation is fantastic. And I think we have covered really all the main points. So for anyone that for the first time is thinking about writing a book, this conversation will definitely inspire. Do you want to share really the last nugget, the last, advice and thoughts? So considering that probably this kind of video is going to be watched by all people that want to know more about your book, but also people that for the first time they think, okay, I want to write a book and how I do it. What do you want to share?
I think be true to your why. Maybe a couple of things. Be true to your why. Why do you want to write a book? If it's to sell, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And that's just going to completely bring you down. So I think be true to your why when it comes to writing a book. And I think the other thing is, and perhaps I brought this up, is there really a right time to write a book? If you have an idea, just start. And this is what I've done. I mean, this has been in the making for, I would say, years. I even started, as I said, these 5 random chapters and the title was changed. So if you're thinking of writing a book, write it for you and just start writing. It doesn't have to be cohesive. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just start. You need to start somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's great. Great advice. And I will actually underline this. And it's all start with yourself, because at the end, for maybe a year or so, you are alone with your book. So you need, yes, I mean, no one is reading before like a long while. So you need to be very clear on your why and why you want to do this for yourself first, and then of course for your audience. But the fuel that is going to bring you to the end, it's your motivation. And then if
Exactly.
you're not
It's your
clear
why.
why, then it's that's never gonna happen. So this is the basics of everything. Thank you, Sandra. It was lovely to
My
have you
pleasure.
here. So I am looking forward, of course, for the second book. You know where to find me. But in the meantime, I want to stress again, this is a great book. I advise everyone to read it. What is good for this book actually is that you can read it on chapter. You don't need to read the full book, because this is
No.
a cat health book. So you have problem with the tummy for this, for that. I always have some disturb. So it's like, for me, was a couple of chapters here were really important to understand the why something happens. And this is why it's something that you should have actually home, and then say, okay, let's think this kind of chapter and so on. And as Sandra said, is the witty way that she's writing. It's funny, but it's also very entertaining and informative. And this is a great combination when you are speaking about a book which is so specialized. So saying that, I wish you all the best. And then if you want to contact me or Sandra, all the links are going to be found below. And then we talk with you soon. Bye.